Sometimes a woman's pullback feels like a door closing, like something inside her has switched off forever. But the truth is far more layered than what your fear wants you to believe. When she steps back, when her message is slow, when her tone changes or her effort fades, she isn't always walking away. Many times she's watching you, she's observing your reactions, studying the way you handle uncertainty, and silently measuring the strength of the man standing in front of her. Women don't test with their words, they test with their distance. They want to see whether you crumble without their attention or whether you remain grounded, steady, and centered no matter what storm she creates around you. Because deep down, she wants to feel that she's connected to a man who doesn't lose himself just because she pulled away for a moment. When she senses insecurity in you, clinginess, neediness, panic, she loses trust. But when she senses stability, patience, self respect, emotional control, something inside her softens. Her pullback becomes a mirror reflecting your emotional discipline, and that's where most men fail. They react based on fear instead of intention. They chase harder, they over communicate, they try to fix something that isn't broken, and in doing so they reveal the very weakness she was trying to measure. What she truly wants is to see how you show up when things don't go your way. It's easy to be confident when everything is flowing smoothly. The real test is who you become when she introduces uncertainty. She's studying your response because it tells her whether you are a man she can feel safe with emotionally. She doesn't need a perfect man, she needs a stable one. This quiet test isn't about punishing you, it's about clarity. She wants to see if your words align with your actions. If you say you're confident, can you stay calm when she becomes distant? If you say you trust the connection, can you remain grounded when she stops giving you reassurance? If you say you know your worth, can you stand firm when she pulls her energy back? These moments reveal everything. When you don't chase after a validation, when you don't break at the first sign of silence, you show her that your confidence doesn't depend on her mood. You show her that you value yourself enough to let the situation breathe instead of forcing outcomes. And ironically, that's what draws her closer because your self control becomes magnetic. Sometimes your silence doesn't push her away, it brings her clarity. It gives her space to feel her own emotions without your panic flooding the situation. It gives her a chance to reflect, to miss you, to see your strength in the way you remain grounded. And whether she admits it or not, that strength is what attracts her the most. Because when you remain calm during her storm, you're showing her that you're the man she hoped you would be all along. There comes a moment in every connection where a woman pauses, looks at the dynamic, and quietly asks herself whether the man she's dealing with is truly the man she imagined him to be. When she pulls away, when she becomes distant, or when her energy shifts, she's not always doing it because she's done with you many times. She's doing it because she wants to see if you will rise back into the version of yourself she once admired. Women don't fall for perfection, they fall for presence. They fall for a man who showed confidence, strength, consistency, and emotional stability. But when you drift from that energy, when you start over investing, over explaining, or relying on her attention to feel grounded, she feels the shift immediately. And sometimes that distance she creates is her way of silently hoping you'll return to the man who originally captured her heart. She remembers the version of you who didn't seek reassurance, who wasn't afraid to lose her, who moved with purpose instead of panic. She remembers the man who had a life goals, standards, and boundaries that weren't dependent on her mood or attention. When you start acting from fear instead of confidence, she feels it and something inside her disconnects. But here's the part most men don't see. Even while she pulls away, she often hopes you'll find your center again. She hopes you'll breathe, slow down, and recalibrate instead of spiraling. She hopes you'll show her the emotional strength she once trusted. Because when she began falling for you, it wasn't because you chased her, it was because you lived from abundance, not desperation. Her silence becomes an invitation, not a rejection. She's giving you space to rise back into your masculine core. She wants to see if you still remember your own value. She wants to see if you can return to that authentic confidence where you don't overact, where you don't let fear dictate your actions, where you aren't trying to force her affection, but instead letting the connection breathe naturally. Women feel safest with a man who is emotionally self sufficient, who can stand alone and yet still choose her. When you lose that balance, the connection becomes unstable. But when you recover that balance, when you return to that strong, centered version of yourself, she feels it instantly. And that's when her heart begins to open again. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for consistency. She's looking for the man whose energy made her feel feminine, protected, and connected. When you stop chasing her reassurance and start embodying your strength again, she notices. When you stop trying to fix her emotions and instead focus on controlling your own, she feels a shift. And when you return to the grounded version yourself, the man who acts from intention rather than fear, she remembers exactly why she cared for you in the first place. When a woman sends mixed signals, most men panic because they assume the inconsistency means she's lost interest. But in reality, mixed signals often reveal an emotional tug of war happening inside her. She's torn between what she feels and what she fears. Part of her is still deeply connected to you. She remembers your presence, your energy, the way you made her feel understood and desired. But another part of her is cautious, uncertain, protecting herself from repeating old patterns or getting hurt again. So she oscillates. One moment she's warm, curious, and responsive. The next she's distant, guarded, or quiet. These shifts don't mean she stopped caring. They actually mean she still cares enough to be affected. A woman who feels nothing doesn't send mixed signals, she sends silence. Mixed signals are emotional fingerprints, subtle evidence that her heart hasn't fully let go. She's trying to balance her desire with her doubt. She's trying to interpret your behavior, your stability, your growth, and your intention. She's watching the version of you that stands before her today and comparing it to the version she remembers from the past. And every time your energy changes, whether you're grounded or insecure, patient or pushy, confident or reactive, she feels it immediately. Her inconsistency isn't about manipulating you, it's about reflecting the emotional conflict inside her. When she pulls back, it's not always a sign she's done, it's often a sign she's trying to protect her heart. When she comes closer again, it's because something in her still hopes the connection could be real, healthy, and stable. Women don't operate from logic in these moments, they operate from emotion, and emotions fluctuate. She may be testing her own feelings, trying to see if she still misses you, if she still trusts you, or if she still believes you're capable of being the man she once felt drawn toward. Instead of reacting to her inconsistency, a wise man stays grounded. He watches, he listens, he observes without trying to force clarity before she's ready. Because when you react emotionally to her mixed signals, you confirm her fears. But when you remain calm, steady, and consistent in your own energy, you make space for her to sort out her internal conflict without feeling pressured. That's when her mixed signals start turning into clearer, more stable signs of interest. She's not confused about you because she's indifferent. She's confused because something in her still hopes something worth fighting for. The real question she's wrestling with is simple. Is the version of you she once cared about still there, or has he faded? If your actions, presence, and emotional strength show her that you've grown instead of collapsed under pressure, her heart naturally begins moving toward you again. Mixed signals aren't rejection, they're a sign she's still emotionally invested enough to be conflicted. There is something powerful that happens the moment you stop chasing, stop over explaining, and stop trying to force a connection that clearly needs room to breathe. When you step back, not out of anger, but out of maturity, something shifts inside her. Your absence isn't just silence, it becomes space. And women feel space the way men feel pressure. When you were constantly available, constantly texting, constantly trying to fix things, she didn't have the chance to feel anything. She didn't have time to wonder about you, miss you, or even question what life feels like without your presence. You were always there, always accessible, always ready to give more than she was giving. But when you finally stop giving a damn in a healthy way, when you stop seeking validation and start respecting your own boundaries, you create a vacuum that pulls her into her own emotions. That space forces her to confront her true feelings. Suddenly, she realizes that the comfort she took for granted is gone. The messages she once ignored aren't coming. The energy she used to rely on is no longer circling around her. And even if she acts like she doesn't notice, trust me, she does. Women are deeply attuned to emotional shifts, and your absence hits harder than your presence ever did when you were needy. She starts replaying memories in her mind, remembering moments when you made her laugh, made her feel understood, or made her feel desired. The human heart doesn't appreciate what's always guaranteed. It appreciates what it feels the risk of losing. In the quiet, she begins to question whether pushing you away was the right move. When she doesn't feel your energy chasing her anymore, a new question rises within her. Was he really as into me as I thought? Has he moved on? Does he not care anymore? And that uncertainty doesn't come from ego, it comes from emotional attachment. She may not admit it, she may not show it, and she may not say a word, but inside she's wrestling with the idea that she might have underestimated her own feelings. When you remove yourself from the center of her attention, you give her the emotional freedom to feel your absence. And missing someone is one of the most powerful emotions a woman can experience. What's happening is simple. When you stop chasing, you return to your masculine center. You stop acting from fear and start acting from self respect. That energy is magnetic. Women aren't attracted to the man who needs them, they're attracted to the man who chooses them from a place of strength. And your absence becomes proof that you're strong enough to walk away if the connection isn't balanced. That's what makes her curious again, what makes her reflect on her own behavior, what makes her wonder whether she pushed too hard or pulled away too soon. Then something deeper happens. She begins to compare how she felt when you were present versus how she feels now. She starts noticing that the attention she once brushed off actually gave her a sense of security. The affection she overlooked actually grounded her. The connection she minimized actually mattered more than she realized. And your absence becomes the catalyst for her internal clarity. You didn't force her back, you didn't pressure her. You simply allowed her to sit with her own emotions. And she starts to understand what she truly wants, not because you chased her, but because you walked away with dignity. Your absence becomes the mirror that reflects her real feelings. Growth is one of the most attractive forces a man can radiate, and it has a way of shaking a woman emotionally even when she tries to stay distant. When she sees you becoming more focused, more disciplined, more emotionally stable, and more in control of your life, something inside her begins to question everything. She might not say anything. She might pretend she doesn't notice. She might act unbothered. But women notice growth the way men notice beauty, instantly, deeply, and without needing a single word. When you evolve, you interrupt the story she created in her mind about you. She thought she knew who you were, what your weaknesses were, and how predictable you could be. But your growth forces her to reconsider that entire narrative. When you level up your habits, your purpose, and your standards, you stop being the man she walked away from and start becoming the man she always wished you'd be, not for her, but for yourself. And that's the part that hits her the hardest. Women are not attracted to potential alone. They're attracted to realized potential. The moment she sees that you're no longer controlled by emotions, no longer triggered by her distance, no longer begging for attention, she feels a shift in the balance. Suddenly, you're not the man who needed her, you're the man who learned from the pain, grew through the silence, and elevated your life instead of collapsing. Your growth becomes the wake up call she didn't expect. She might start checking your social media more than she admits. She might ask mutual friends about you. She might casually bring your name up, pretending it's nothing, but it's not nothing. She's watching to see if you've changed in a meaningful way. She's watching to see if your new behavior is consistent, not temporary. She's watching to see if you've truly matured into the man she hoped you'd eventually become, a man with boundaries, vision, and emotional strength. And that's the beauty of masculine growth. It doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't beg, it inspires. When you rise, you naturally create a contrast between the old you and the man you become. And that contrast makes her question whether she misjudged you or gave up too early. Your growth becomes a silent reminder that you are capable of being someone extraordinary, someone stable, someone desirable, not because she wants you back, but because you finally want yourself more than you wanted her approval. A woman can ignore your words, but she can't ignore your evolution. She can overlook your promises, but she can't overlook real change. When she sees you refusing to break, refusing to chase, refusing to fall apart, that's when her emotions return, not out of regret, but out of recognition that she may have underestimated the man you were capable of becoming. A woman may distance herself, pull back, or go silent, but even in that space, she's often observing something deeper than men usually realize. She's watching to see if you can lead without needing her, not leading her life, not controlling her decisions, not forcing the direction of the relationship, but leading yourself. When a woman senses that a man's emotional stability depends on her attention, she loses trust in his strength. She wants to feel your consistency, not your insecurity. She wants to sense that your confidence stands on its own 2 feet, not on the foundation of her validation. So even when she steps back, even when she pretends she's indifferent, she's quietly paying attention to whether you remain grounded or fall apart. Women don't want a man who crumbles under emotional pressure. They want a man who can stay centered even when the emotional weather around him shifts. That's where your true masculine presence comes from, not from dominance, not from pride, but from emotional self reliance. When she sees you remain calm instead of reactive, patient instead of panicked, composed instead of chaotic, she begins to feel something powerful, safety. And that safety is what draws her back more than anything you could say or do. When you show her through your actions that you can handle uncertainty, that you don't seek her to fill your emptiness, you don't chase to make up for your fears, she realizes you're not the same version of the man she pulled away from. It's in your silence that she sees your maturity. It's in your restraint that she sees your strength. It's in your decision not to force the connection that she recognizes your ability to let things unfold naturally. Women respect a man who doesn't beg because begging reveals emotional instability. Women respect a man who doesn't chase endlessly because chasing exposes a lack of boundaries. But most importantly, women respect a man who can love without losing himself. When she senses that you have reached a place where you desire her but don't depend on her, where you appreciate her but don't worship her, where you choose her but don't collapse when she pulls back, that's when her heart starts opening again. She wants to feel that if she lets you back into her life, she's stepping into the arms of a man who leads with calm confidence, not frantic emotion. She wants to know that you can stay steady when things get difficult, that you won't fold under pressure, and that your self worth comes from within, not from her attention. Women fall deeper for a man who shows that his life continues with or without her, because that's the man who can truly love freely, not fearfully. When you embody that kind of stability, you stop being the man she questioned and become the man she secretly hopes will return, not weaker but wiser, not desperate but grounded, not dependent, but capable of leading both himself and the relationship with clarity and strength. Your ability to lead without needing her becomes the exact reason she starts wanting you again.